Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today. We'll start the session in a few minutes. Arik, you're on mute zone.
Thank you for joining us today. I see we have people coming in from all around. So good morning, afternoon, and evening. I'm excited to be with you here today in this webinar. What to expect when you're expecting an IT compliance audit? That's our topic for this day. And we are here to provide you with as many insights as time will allow us. So the idea is to help you to have the best security audit experience as you can get. Naturally, we'll not cover all the aspects relevant for security compliance audit, processes. So stay tuned for future episodes of this webinar series. But let's start from the beginning and allow me to quickly introduce myself. So my name is Arik Solomon. I'm the CEO and co-founder for Cypago. I've been in the tech and cyber industry for over 25 years now. I held several executive positions in the Israeli intelligence, cyber division, and other leading companies, among which I served as the CTO for E&Y's Cybersecurity Center, where I led multiple security compliance reviews and in-depth analysis for several of the Fortune 1000 companies. Now, before we begin, I think it's proper to provide some background. Now, security audits are not a new concept. They have been around for years now. But however, the increased adoption rate of cloud technologies and the complexity of those technologies and increased challenge, or the overwhelming challenge in securing these environments, has turned the compliance process to be highly complex, confusing, and time-consuming. And the fact that any company doing its first steps into the market or penetrating new markets must demonstrate compliance with one or more security standards has quickly become a significant pain point for everyone. Now, in our session today, we're going to cover all the relevant aspects of a security audit. We'll talk about the standards, whatever is needed in the preparation stage, during the audit itself, the costs, and finally, we'll share how you could reduce the overall headache involved in these processes. So what are the standards? What do they have in common? But before we begin, let me say that, of course, there are multiple standards out there, NIST, HIPAA, PCI DSS, to name only a few. However, for the focus of this session, we have decided to talk about SOC 2 and ISO 27001 because they have been the most widely accepted standards. So we're going to talk about these two, and some of the things that we'll mention apply to others as well. Now, the first thing that is worth mentioning about security compliance standards is that they are a great way to communicate your cybersecurity posture to your potential customers or partners. And both SOC 2 and ISO have a list of domains or categories, and each one has a list of controls. But in many cases, by the way, such as the SOC 2 case, these controls are very generic requirements. So every organization that would like to adopt each one of these standards must make sure that it goes through a very specific audit scope customization process to make sure that the scope is relevant for its specific needs. I do hope that you can hear me, everyone, at this stage. If not, I'll be more than happy if you can just let me know. But if not, I'm continuing. So the second point that we would like to mention here is that these audit processes refer to processes and infrastructures across the organization. That means that many types of internal tools that you use, internal processes, and other things that the organization has in its day-to-day operational status are subject to the specific compliance. This is true for SOC 2 and for ISO 27001 as well. Now, the other thing that is worth mentioning is that both SOC 2 and the ISO 27001 must be audited by a third-party organization, as opposed to other standards that can be self-attested. Now, that means that you need to carefully choose the auditors that you work with. You can always choose to work with, I don't know, some boutique, small CPA firm, but when you work with the larger Big 4 or Big 5 auditing firm, you will get a higher validity for your certification or report. The last thing to mention here is that both SOC 2 and ISO 27001 has already become the part of the cost of doing business. That means that every organization that is preparing to go to market must allocate the resources needed for a security audit every year. Now, of course, there are some differences between these two standards. One is the dynamic of the audit itself. SOC 2 refers to a time period, usually 12 months, whereas the ISO 27001 refers to the evidence collected to reflect your security posture in a given point in time. Another difference is the fact that SOC 2 is much more rigorous and goes further into the details. So, for example, you can find a requirement to demonstrate, let's say, compliance with a requirement such as two-factor authentication in a SOC 2 audit, but not necessarily in an ISO 27001 audit. Another important consideration, and it's very important when you start your go-to-market and choose your target geographies, is that SOC 2 is much more popular in the North American market, specifically in the US, and ISO 27001 is much more prevalent in the European market. And the last one, the last difference that we need to cover here today is that SOC 2 is already somewhat adapted to the cloud and to its relevant technologies. Again, ISO 27001 is more basic in that respect, refers to more generic IT environments, but it already has some successors or let's say additional standards in the same family, such as the ISO 27017, which is much more cloud focused. Now, let's go and see what is included in the preparation stage before you can start an actual audit. There are multiple things, as you can see, that are required as part of the audit. The most important thing to mention is the earlier you start, the better. And you want to make sure that your entire processes and setup and configurations are being designed in the best way that they can. This is much the same way as when you plant a tree, for example. You want to make sure that it grows straight and proud from the very day that you planted. So start early. Another thing to take into account is that you must align on the time limitations. Audits take time. SOC 2, for example, for its shortest cycle, can take up to 6 months. The shortest audit itself is 3 months. You have at least some time to be prepared for the audit, and then the time the auditor takes to make your report ready. So if you have a, let's say, a prospect, a large account, waiting to close the deal, but condition that deal on you providing a SOC 2 report, 6 months might be a long time to wait. Now, another aspect that we need to take into account is the scope definition. We already mentioned that organizations must make sure that the scope of the audit matches their specific IT environment and processes, and we'll see that later on. So we need to collect evidence, but we need to know where to collect those evidence from. So every organization must list its key tools or cloud tools that it uses that it can now pull the evidence from. You need to take a lot of data out of these tools in order to present them to the auditor. So you need to know where this data is stored, how you need to get it, and what type of data you need to pull from these tools. The last two things that you need to do before you are super ready for the audit is that you need to review your current state and identify any compliance gaps that you have. And when I say gap, I mean that any deviation from the standard requirements, and any one of these deviations must be remediated before you approach an audit. Why? Because you want to go through that audit in flying colors, as they say. And if you have something that is in a gap status, your report or your certification will not be valid. Now, what happens during the audit process itself? And again, there are several key points that are important to mention here. First, as we already discussed, audits must be done by external auditors. And again, it's super important to know who you are engaging with. But even more important is my warm recommendation to have your internal audits in place. That is, your internal teams running internal audits repeatedly all throughout the year. And why is that? Because you want to achieve compliance state not only on the day of the audit, but throughout the year, because that's the promise that you as an organization have made to your, again, customers and partners. And you want to make sure that you are compliant not only one day a year, but 365, 24/7. Now, we mentioned the auditor, and we mentioned evidence collection. Of course, the auditor is the authority to authorize or to approve all your evidence. So every evidence you collect, you need to make sure that it aligns or it is approved by the auditor. Another thing to mention here, another key point, is that all the data collected must be shared with the auditors. So you need to be prepared for a lot of data sharing. You need to make sure that you have a robust and secure way for sharing this data. The last key point here is that be prepared for that. The examination itself can take up to 4 weeks. Again, it really depends on the size of the organization, the nature of your product, whether it's a SaaS application or not, the geography you work at, and some other key factors. All in all, it can take from a couple of days up to several weeks. That's, again, a time you need to take into your calculations. Now, some notable differences between SOC 2 and ISO 27001 during the audit phase itself is that the SOC 2, in a way, is much more flexible. SOC 2 contains 5 different pillars that an organization can choose to implement one or more of these pillars. This would be, by the way, I'm not sure it will tell you much. The 5 pillars of SOC 2 are security, availability, confidentiality, processing integrity, and privacy. Altogether, they form, as we mentioned before, super rigorous and detailed scope. So you can choose to go through an audit for only one or two of these pillars. But ISO 27001, on the other hand, all the audit pillars or domains apply, unless, of course, a specific aspect is not relevant. Let's say you don't have any physical office, so all the physical security controls will be not relevant for you. But another aspect is that SOC 2 is being audited by licensed CPA firms, whereas ISO 27001 is being audited by authorized ISO entities. And you may think that it sounds like a petty technicalities, but again, it dictates with whom you can and should engage in order to receive a valid report or certification. And this brings me to the final point here, is that SOC 2 results in a report, again, whereas ISO 27001 results in a certification. And what is the difference? It's much like the difference between a COVID test and a blood test. The first provides you a clear yes or no answer. That would be the ISO certification. While the latter provides a list of metrics that the reviewer should decide if that okay with him or not, and that is the SOC 2 report. So the SOC 2 report is highly detailed, and because your customers, prospects, partners may ask you to provide them this report, it is clear why organizations work hard in order to make sure that their report are clean, because they want to show that they made their homework right. Now, I think that we have now reached the most interesting or exciting part of this session. How much should a security audit cost? So let's dwell into the details. I think that we can safely say that the structure of the audit cost comprises three different types: the direct, indirect, and opportunity loss costs. Now, the direct, as it may sound, the direct costs are everything that you pay for directly: consultancy services that you need, auditor fees, any security tools that you need to implement. For example, you will need to provide a code scanning report. So if you don't have a code vulnerability scanner in place, you will need to have one. The indirect costs are highly important component of the audit cost, and many organizations tend to overlook them, and that's a very big mistake, because it contains all the effort put in by your internal teams throughout the audit process. Everything that they need to do, from audit scope to evidence collection to identifying and remediating the gaps, and of course the overall process management. This can quickly sum up to hundreds and even thousands of work hours spent by your most expensive and time-limited employees. So you want to make sure that these indirect costs are as low as possible. And the last component are opportunity loss costs, and this happen when you are misaligned with your customer's requirements. So again, if you have a large deal waiting and that customer would like you to show a SOC 2 report or an ISO 27001 certification, and you don't have it in time, you may lose this deal and many other deals as well, and that's of course affects negatively your revenue stream. Now, after we've gone through all the different aspects of an audit process, and we have learned how complex, confusing, and time-consuming it may be, let us spend the minutes that we have left in this session to share with you how Cypago can help you to reduce this headache. So our platform, the Security Compliance Platform, provides an end-to-end intelligent automation for any security standard in an easy-to-use SaaS platform, as we will shortly see. We enable compliance orchestration, that is, the collection of evidence across data silos, but also we uniquely learn analyze, and correlate the data to precisely detect your compliance status. Organizations using our platform, and many so, they enjoy effortless compliance experience with practically any security standard, including, of course, SOC 2 and ISO 27001. Essentially, I would say that we help you as an organization to eliminate the compliance bottlenecks. And we do so by significantly reducing the overall efforts that are required as part of these audit processes. So at the end of the day or the end of the year, you save, again, hundreds or even thousands of hours every year and remove all your audit friction. One of the key means that help us and help you achieve that is the seamless integration with your IT ecosystem. Connecting a tool to our platform is as easy as selecting it from dozens of supported integrations, clicking the Connect Integration button, and approving the Apple or role creation. This is as easy as that, and we'll see it in a minute. But of course, you don't have to take our words for it. Instead, you can ask any of our many happy customers, some of which you can see here. There are many more, and they are currently using our platform to go through SOC 2, ISO 27001, and some other standards as well. Okay, so no more talking. Let's quickly dive into a live overview of the platform, so we'll be able to see it in action. Okay, so what you see here is our SaaS platform. You can log in using your SSO provider or any other means. For now, we're gonna use our demo account to log in. And once we are logged in into the platform, the platform will take us through a very quick and easy onboarding process that will allow us to provide some basic details on our organization and quickly connect everything that we need. So let's assume we are the best startup in the world and that we have around 100 employees, and our primary industry is insurtech, for example, and our headquarters location is the United States. All this data is being used as an input to our learning engines that ultimately provide you with the best customized experience. Once we go over that, we provide you the ability to control where you store all the collected data. This is a super important security feature. You can store it by default in our evidence vault or any other container they would like to provide. Now you can connect the platform. By the way, you could do it now or on any other stage of using the platform. But for now, let's choose some tools that we think that will be involved in the process. As you can see here, there are multiple categories and multiple types of tools that you can choose, and every one of these tools ultimately serves as a source for data being collected. So we chose several tools, and connection is as easy as clicking this button or these logos. So let's say we want to connect to GitHub. I click Connect Integration here, and once the GitHub pop-up appears, I can choose the relevant organization. And once the organization is selected, I can, if I want, I can choose the relevant repository. Let's say I would like to connect to the production repository only. I click Install. I wait 3 seconds, and that's it. We are connected. And the same is true for any other tools that I would like to connect. So once done, we are now presented with the home screen of the platform, and we can choose what audit we would like to begin. For the sake of this demo, let's start with a SOC 2 audit. We quickly can go through the scoping wizard. The scoping will allow us to pinpoint and to customize the SOC 2 audit for our specific needs. So first, we would like to say what type of SOC 2 we're going to go through. Let's say it's type 2 audit. and it's going to be one year long. And let's say it's the first time that we engage with the SOC 2. Again, all this is being used as an input for our platform. Now, we would like to quickly answer some basic questions on the data handling and operational policies. Let's say that we have a SaaS product, that our main customer concerns is with data protection integrity, that the data types that we use in our platform is business data, some security data, maybe financial data, that we also process and store the data, that we have an in-house development, we have these type of cloud environments, we don't have any infrastructure on premise, but we do have physical offices, and that's it. The platform automatically recommends the pillars, the categories of SOC 2 that we should implement. Of course, we can choose not to do anything that we don't want to implement at this stage. And when clicking done, the platform very quickly presents me with the audit and what is needed to be done. And on the top of the screen here, we see the timeline. What are the different phases, stages that we need to go through? We are now post the scoping phase. We'll quickly go through the gap analysis. And for a full process, we go through remediation, of course, the audit period itself, and until the examination is ended. Now, again, for the sake of this demo, I would like to quickly go to a different environment that we have ready. Usually scanning takes some 5 or 6 minutes, but we wanted to spare you this time. So when I look at a platform that already scanned and have data collected and analyzed, we can see that when I click the gap filter here, the platform presents me very easily all the gaps that I have. That means that the data has been collected and analyzed for me. So in this example, I can see that this specific control requires me to encrypt all the databases that I use, and we see here that the data is being collected and analyzed automatically. When I click View All, I see the list of databases that I have configured, and very easily I can spot the one that is non-compliant because it's not encrypted. The same is true for other types of gaps, let's say from the change management category, where I need to make sure that every pull request is being reviewed. When I click that specific evidence, I see that I have a list of pull requests, relevant pull requests, that some of them do not require any approval. And this is a deviation from what the standard requires. Naturally, there's much more to show here. There are some very cool and advanced tasks management capabilities that you can assign a gap to someone as a task, so he will manage it from the DevOps or engineering or whatever. And all in all, working with our platform allows organization to go through all the stages that we have mentioned in this session very quickly, very easily, and again, to save hundreds and even thousands of hours every year. So let's quickly go back to our presentation, and I think it would be a good time for any questions coming in from the audience. So I see that we have a couple of questions already sent. I see that we have Jim asking, what if I use a tool that doesn't appear in your plugin list? Can it be added? So thank you for the question. Sure, we add several new plugins every month. So feel free to contact us and we'll make sure it's in. Another question coming from Alex. Thank you for that. How do you price the product? Okay, that's a very good question. Is there a different cost for each compliance? Okay, so our pricing is based on the type of audits that you need to have. We provide bundles for popular standards and some other packages as well. If you have any other questions, please send us in the chat, and we'll send all of that right after this session. Thank you everyone for joining us today. I hope you found this session enlightening, that you have gained some valuable input. I really enjoyed it. feel free to reach out the team or me at Cypago at any time you like. Enjoy the rest of the day and have a great one. Thank you very much and bye-bye.